Okay, hello everyone. So this live stream is a trainer to the competition that I posted last week. So I posted a task 2 question. Some people wrote full essays in response. I will choose one of those people, then run through their essay and explain everything they've done right, everything they've done wrong, point out basically all their mistakes so that they understand how to improve their scores. And I will give them a score for each of the band descriptors and the overall score for their task to answer. So that's what we're doing here today. I also have a new question for next week. So if you'd like to get involved, you can find the question at the end of this live stream or the video if you're watching the recording. If you are not already familiar with how to write a task 2 answer, I do have a playlist that I'm sharing with you in the comments now. Click on the YouTube and the Facebook. They're the same, just for whichever platform you prefer. But make your way through those lessons. You'll understand how to write a task 2 answer and basically, get involved in this competition for next week. So let's have a look at who the winner is this week. So I use this little app here. So these are all the names of the people who wrote essays in response to the competition. And let's find the winner here. The winner is Menas. Great. Well done, Menas. So just for those of you who are joining me live, or if you're watching the recording, please do go ahead and ask any questions you have, either about the feedback I'm giving or some misunderstanding you have about the essay that we're looking at. Jagu, hello there. Great. Welcome to the channel. Maha, hello to you again. We must be living in a similar time zone. You were at the lesson last night. You're at the lesson this morning, so you're not too far from me. Okay, so Jagu and Maha, sounds like you know each other, perhaps. Okay, so let me just quickly find Menas' essay, and then we'll get started on that. Okay, so Menas shared in YouTube. And okay, here we have it. So okay, so here we have, sorry, let me just get my software organized. Okay, so here we have Menas' essay, and this was the question. These days, many people spend extra hours in the evening at work instead of going home to their families. That should not be a question mark. Okay, so the first thing I want from Menas is to paraphrase this question statement, and it should have the exact same meaning. So where Menas can go wrong is by adding extra meaning, not including everything that was included, all the information that was in the question, changing it in any way. So we don't want any changes, anything extra or anything less. We just want the exact same meaning, but to change as many words as possible. Okay, so these days, many people spend extra hours. Nowadays, so comma there. And I'm just going to highlight that so I can see the number of mistakes later on to help identify the grammar score. Nowadays, a lot of people, instead of going back home, choose to spend extra evening hours, that's not a phrase, at work. So when we use instead, it's more likely to put it the other way around. So they spend extra hours in the evening at work instead of going home. So you put what they're doing before instead, and what they could potentially be doing after instead. So instead has been used incorrectly as well. So it should be a lot of people spend not their extra time, but just extra time. So far what I'm seeing, and this does happen actually, just to mention, what I do see a lot is where students will make a lot of mistakes in the paraphrase because they're trying so desperately not to use any of the words or any of the structures from the question, and then the grammar and the vocabulary actually improves after that. So that might be the case. We'll see later on. But initially, what we're seeing here is too many vocab and grammar mistakes. So unless there's an improvement, we're looking at a low score for grammar and vocabulary so far. Okay. I think the excessive workload is the main cause of this issue. Perfect. So that's what I wanted. The outline statement is going to be a response to these questions. What is the cause of this situation? And we have the excessive workload. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So one main idea here. Now the second question, what are its effects? What you need to be careful of is that effects is plural. So we need two main ideas in response to this. So overall, 3 ideas, 1 cause and 2 effects. And as a result, it is creating distance between family members and also damaging social relationships. This is great. So we have 3 main ideas. They're relevant, they're specific, they're all appropriate. So it's creating distance between family members. So there's another idea, and also damaging social relationships. Okay, so far what we're looking at here is a task achievement score of 6 because the basic response is there. What we're looking for from this point to get the task achievement score higher, we're looking for the development of those main ideas. And what you'll see as well, like I mentioned, where all the vocab and grammar mistakes that we're seeing in the paraphrase are not showing up in the next sentence. So it does seem like Menas needed to focus more on clearly communicating when writing the paraphrase instead of focusing on trying to avoid copying any words from the question. So that those are the main issues so far, was just in the way that it was paraphrased. Okay, so let me just pop back in and see, do we have any questions? No questions at the moment. So any of you who are live, or if you're watching the recording, get involved, ask questions if there's anything you don't understand. Okay, so back to the essay then. What we have so far is a good outline statement, but a poor paraphrase. The meaning is okay, but the grammar and vocab. So in the first body paragraph, okay, so I'm seeing an issue here already. We have a conclusion, 1, 2 body paragraphs, and the introduction. So we needed an extra body paragraph. The word count is 310, a little bit long, but not problematic. But what I want is 1 paragraph about excessive workload, 1 paragraph about creating distance between family members, and 1 paragraph about damaging social relationships. So I'm guessing, looking at this, it seems like we have 1 paragraph about the cause and 1 paragraph about the effects, but I would prefer to split that up, have relatively 3 paragraphs of relatively the same length, where you're giving the same amount of development to each of the 3 ideas. So we'll have to look at it in more detail, but there's obviously something problematic here. So what I expect is this body paragraph here to be about excessive workload, but let's see what it's actually about. The reason that is mainly forcing people to work for extra hours is the busy nature of today's corporate world. Okay, this is good, because this is what we want. A topic sentence that repeats the main idea so that I know exactly what the paragraph is about. So this is a good topic sentence. To elaborate, employees are overloaded with responsibilities, and more often than not, completing these tasks are becoming impossible within the standard office hours. So we need is here, because the subject is completing the tasks. So doing this is doing all of the tasks. So even though tasks is plural, we're looking at the subject completing those tasks. So that would be a singular subject, and we need to have is with that. But in relation to the explanation, that's all good. And as a result, these monstrous, that is too informal. That's too informal a vocab. A word like that's fine for speaking, but informal vocab like this in IELTS writing is not suitable. And as a result, these monstrous workloads and late nights are becoming non-negotiable. For example, a presentation or a meeting demands extensive hours of preparation that seldom requires an executive to work overtime. That seldom requires. Okay, so this is confusing. Seldom means not often or rarely. Seldom means rarely. So for example, a presentation or a meeting demands extensive hours of preparation that seldom requires an executive to work. It must be that often requires an executive. So this is the wrong meaning. And this, with the other mistakes in vocab and grammar, I could always understand, but this one has confused me, where I had to go back, reread it, make sure that I'm putting it together, and I have to guess the meaning. That, okay, so the onus is on me to understand that this word was used incorrectly and they must have meant another word because it doesn't make sense with this word. That's where coherence and cohesion takes a hit. That's where coherence and cohesion is going to take, you're going to reduce your coherence and cohesion score. So you've obviously used a word that you don't fully understand. You've seen it somewhere, you didn't research it properly, you didn't learn it properly, and now you've really done some damage to both your coherence and cohesion and your vocab score. Okay. Therefore, today's professionals are bound to cross the work-life boundaries to accomplish their daily goals at work. Now, this is actually, besides the word seldom, this is a very, very well constructed paragraph. But what you have to remember is that we need to develop three main ideas. So for this, it's a bit long. When you're developing three main ideas, you need to, only develop like about that much. And then each idea is developed about that much. Also, when you're writing an example, make it sound like it's from the real world, not from your imagination. So it's not, an example isn't, this is something that happens. It should be, this is something that happens here. This is something that happens there, as if it's lifted from the real world. So what we would want to say is, like give the name of a country, give the name of a company, give the name of somewhere specific, to make it sound like it's lifted from the real world. It's a real world example, not just something that happens. Make it grounded in reality, even if it's not real. Just say, for example, in my country. Give the name of your country. Say, for example, in the specific name of a big corporation, perhaps, that people would know. So you can make your examples grounded in reality in that way. But besides that, this is a good paragraph, and that word seldom is really after doing the most of the damage here so far. Okay, so let me just jump back in, see who's here, and answer any questions. Jagu, how to write a good thesis. So you'll really see the outline statement is just to include the main ideas within the context of the question. But at the start of this lesson, Jagu, I shared links to my complete task 2 guide, and all of that information is in there. You'll see that in great detail there as well. Hi, Sushma. Good to see you here again. Maha. If the question requires 3 ideas, do we need to write 3 body paragraphs for sure? Can't we write 2 effects in 1 paragraph? You can. Absolutely, you can. It's not what I recommend you do, but you can do that. But then you need to have the same amount of development for each paragraph. So are you going to have one body paragraph about this long and then the next body paragraph about this long? It doesn't look like the paragraphs are. It's better to have the paragraphs roughly the same length. It's just what we would expect in academic writing for developing ideas. But you could. I wouldn't recommend it. Really, following my structure is fine, but following my structure is best. What you're saying would be fine, but if you're aiming for a higher score, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But there's nothing in the IELTS band descriptors that says don't do that. But it's not. What we're looking for is logical organization as part of coherence and cohesion, and I would say that's not that is not as logical as it could be. So not 100% wrong, not that you can never do that. I just wouldn't recommend it. Hi, Jenna. Good to see you here again. You can definitely write an example based on your own experience. What I would push you for, though, is to write an example about a group of people rather than an individual. So if you're saying, for example, when I worked in my company, I often had to work late because I needed to prepare presentations. That's about you, but is that the norm? Is that what normally happens? So just change that a little bit and say, for example, when I worked at whatever company, I and my colleagues often had to work late to prepare for presentations. So now we're talking about a group of people. So it's the exact same example, but it's about a group of people, which makes it stronger, because you don't want to be you don't want to be talking about one person where that might be the exception. So maybe you're the only person who ever works late, but when everybody does it, or when a lot of people do it, that makes it stronger. Maha, you're very welcome. No problem. Okay, so let's get back into this essay. We'll move on to the next paragraph. Okay. So we see we have one body paragraph, and we're expecting to find the two effects: creating distance between family members and damaging social relationships. Okay. On the other hand, this trend tremendously jeopardizes family connections. Apart from being overworked and burnt out. Okay, so you don't want to go off topic. So if you wanted to say that one of the effects is that you get burnt out, that's fine. But you've already established what your essay is about, and it's about this problem with family members and this problem with social relationships. So now you're talking about another main idea. This doesn't belong here. When you're planning your essay, this would have been a perfect main idea to select, but it's not development of family connections. It's got nothing to do with family connections, so we don't want it here. Unlike others, these people are unable to enjoy quality time with their families as they need rest or some alone time after a long day, and as a result, day by day, the family connections lose their edge. That's too vague and it's too informal, that phrase, lose their edge. So what are you saying? It's that they're becoming more distant. So the less time they spend together, the less close the relationship is. That makes sense, but you have to say that. So unlike others, these people are unable to enjoy quality family time because they need to da 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 da. Okay, but so you literally haven't said why it jeopardizes family connections. You've said that they don't have enough time to spend with their family because they need to rest and they need to do other things. Okay, so this is explaining that they don't have as much time with family. You haven't said how it jeopardizes their family connections. It loses their edge. That it doesn't really mean anything, but I can guess you're saying that they become more distant, but you haven't said that. So I'm not going to give you credit for thinking of it. I can only give you credit for saying it, for writing it in your answer. So unfortunately, this is actually, there is no development of this idea so far. So we're still stuck at a band 6. So with this development, we were definitely pushing up towards a band 8 because you've included so much development of the idea. But here, I don't see anything about jeopardy to connections. I just see somebody who's tired and who needs to relax and have some time for themselves when they go home from work. So it's not about that. It's not about jeopardizing family connections. It might have pushed yourself up to a band 7 if you had said, and the family connections become more distant, family relationships become more distant, but you didn't say that. So unfortunately, you're not going to recover from this. Your task achievement score is going to be a band 6. Even if you have perfect development here, we need development of each idea. So at this point, you're not going to get a score higher than band 6 for task achievement. So this is the other idea, damaging social relationships. Moreover, as they end up using more of their free time working, these workers rarely find time for socializing with friends or relatives, which complicates their social life even further. As a consequence, we end up having an imbalanced society. No, I don't. You need. I don't need an explanation of the outcome. I need an explanation of why social. What was the phrase you used? Social relationships. Of why relationships are suffering. Okay, so they rarely have time. That makes sense. And it complicates the social life. Well, what complication? This is too vague. What is the complication? So, you can't allude to an idea. You have to say specifically what's actually happening. So, the less time you spend with friends, the relationship starts to suffer because you don't know about what's going on in each other's lives, and when you meet each other, you have too much to catch up on, and that's the type of thing that you want to say. And don't confuse the outcome with an explanation. And describing the outcome does not explain how something happens. So you've approached this at the wrong end. As a consequence, we end up having an imbalanced society where many people are just isolated workers, completely out of touch with everyday. That's everyday is 2 words, not 1 word. Oh, it's everyday relationships. So it's a part of relationships, everyday relationships. Sorry, it's been used as an adjective. And interactions, which are essential prerequisites for a healthy society. Okay, so none of that's connected. So where the development was really strong in this paragraph, there was too much of it, but it was strong in that it was all focused on the topic. This paragraph should have been divided into 2, and the development needs to focus on explaining the main idea, not focusing on a different aspect. Perhaps the vocabulary here, you lost out because of that. And then focusing on the outcome. So a complete lack of development here. So we're still on a band 6 for task achievement. So let me go back and see if anyone else has any questions here at the moment. Hi, Dominic. You're back with us again. Hello, Facebook user. Very welcome, Jenna. No problem. Okay, so that brings us to the conclusion. Sorry, let me pull it up here till we talk about it. I don't recommend using to sum up. It doesn't have the same meaning. Just use in conclusion. You only need one cohesive device. You'll always write a conclusion. You just need one. Just say in conclusion every time. Working after the closing time. I don't know what these are. They don't belong in. We don't use these in English punctuation. I'm going to delete them. I don't know what they're supposed to be. Okay. So working after closing time for some officials is... No, this is in the wrong place. So it needs to be... Working after closing time is unavoidable for some officials due to the modern corporate culture, which is burdened with thousands of activities. Unfortunately, this practice is causing havoc on society And fundamentally, it is coming down to two major side effects. No, a side effect is something that happens as a consequence, but I'm wrong. This is okay. Two major side effects: creating disconnected families and loosening social connections and weakening social connections. Okay, so I would say this student can definitely write a stronger essay. They can get a better score. So Menas, you can get a better score, definitely. But first of all, you need to be more careful when you're planning your essay. If you're not planning your essay before you write it, you're going to end up just writing whatever comes to your mind when you're writing the essay. And as well, when you write your plan, you can look at your ideas, make sure they're related to the topic, make sure they're specific. They have to be relevant, they have to be specific. And you can check those things much more easily when you write your plan in advance. So my guess would be you didn't write your plan, and I think you're going to really bring up your task achievement score by doing that. But at the moment, for this answer, it's a band 6. Coherence and cohesion is a band 6. The big thing for me here was seldom, but also the putting the two paragraphs, putting the two ideas in the same paragraph. I prefer you to split those up. And then as well, it's the logical progression of ideas. So you said you're going to talk about jeopardizing family connections. Then you completely change the idea, which I wasn't expecting. I'm expecting you to develop this idea because that's what you said you're going to do. And then you change it. That hurts your coherence and cohesion score as well. So that's a band 6 for coherence and cohesion. You need to, again, by planning your essay, that would help. By following the structures that I have developed, that would help. And this is just down to learning vocabulary properly. That word seldom does not have the meaning you need it to be, and that was the biggest effect. So coherence and cohesion score band 6. Vocabulary, even with all the mistakes that I pointed out, you're going to get a band 7 for vocabulary because of the parts in white. There's just such good range and accurate use that you balanced it out. But it's these words, the informal words, monstrous. I thought there were some other informal words. I can't remember now at the moment. Some inaccurate use, and then this lose their edge, seldom using informal phrases. Lose their edge was the other informal one, but using language inaccurately. So it's a low band 7. Like another one or two mistakes like this, you'd be looking at a band 6, but you are escaping. But what I can see from the other language you've used in the bits that I haven't highlighted, I can see that you do have the ability for a strong band 7. So you just need to be more careful. Don't take any risks with your vocab. That will help your score. And then for grammar, just let me have a quick look at the number of mistakes. Mainly because of the introduction, you're going to get a band 7 there. I think you have the ability for a higher score you have the ability for a higher score in grammar if you're more careful with the paraphrase. So that's 6677. Overall band 6.5 for that task 2 answer, Menas. So that is essentially the essay correction. Let me just see if we have any more questions here. Sushma. Nope, we don't need to write. If you're asked for the consequence, there are some questions. We'll say like, what are the consequences? If you're asked for the consequence, you should, but that's not developing the idea. To develop it, you need to either explain it or you need to give examples. So that's what's needed from you. Okay, so let me just share another link with you. I have other, like the lessons that we had, the lesson we had on speaking yesterday and the task 2 lesson that we have on task 2 tomorrow in the live streams and Facebook and YouTube. I also have lessons for speaking, academic task 1, general task 1, and for task 2 that we do on Zoom. And if you're not already joining me in those lessons, you can use this link to register. Hi, Jervin. Good to see you. We're just finishing up here now. Okay, so lastly, let me share the question for next week with you. I added it to the bottom of this document. Here it is. Some university students live with their families while studying, but others prefer to move away from home. Do the benefits of moving out to attend university outweigh the disadvantages? So again, if you are not if you're not already familiar with how to write a task 2 essay, you can use those playlists, the guide that I shared with you at the start of the lesson, and just write your answer, post it in the comments under the recording of this video, and we'll repeat the process. Next Wednesday, I'll have another live stream just like this one. Choose a new winner, go through their answer, and just like you saw right there. Okay, so I think I have another few comments. Let me just go through, see how everyone's doing, and then we'll wrap it up. Abdel Mamin. Okay. You can still watch the recording, and I want to have a bigger spread, so it's not just, I don't want to just cater to people in Africa and Europe. I want to be able to help students all over the world. And I have a Zoom lesson later today, so I need to do it earlier for my own schedule as well. But thank you for the suggestion. I know, Jervin, seems to happen every time. But if you go, so you're on Facebook, if you just go to my page, you'll see it shows the times of the live stream. So I announce them every Friday, and you'll see the times from Friday to, well, the one on Tuesday, and then the one on Wednesday, and the one on Thursday. So you'll see the times there. And what's good about those is that Facebook converts the time into your time zone. So you'll see the time based on where you are. The only exception to that would be, and this does happen, where I've had students who move from wherever they're from, let's say they're from India and they move to Canada, but on their laptop, they don't update the time on their laptop, so that the times shown are different to where they are. But besides that, that's the only time I've seen the times not being accurate. So you should be able to check them out there, and you're very welcome. Live daily. Yeah, so I do lessons, three live streams a day and 4 Zoom sessions a week. So I'm doing 7 lessons. So get involved. Click that link, sign up for my live feedback lessons. There are plenty more lessons besides these ones. So not Saturday, Sunday. I don't really take the day off, but I don't do any live lessons on those days. But yeah, there are more. Get involved. Be good to see you in more lessons as well, Jaslene. Okay, so that's it for today. Here's the question again that we're looking that for this week's or next week's competition. So write your answer to that, post it in the comments, and we will find the next winner this day next week. Okay, take care of yourselves, everyone, and see you next time. Bye-bye.